I'm Rhys Green. I'm Principal Conservation Biologist at the RSPB, and I'm also a Professor in the Zoology Department in the University of Cambridge, where I'm a senior member of the department's Conservation Science Group. I work in the university because it's an effective place for me to do my job, because it gives me the opportunity to work with a lot of academic scientists interested in the same problems. It also gives me access to research students and, in some cases, sources of money for research which wouldn't otherwise be easily accessible. I moved to the RSPB in 1982 to start with as a short-term contract research biologist, and my first job was working on breeding waders, things like snipe and lapwing and redshank and black-tailed godwits. And then I got another 3-year contract working on stone curlews in Breckland. Partway through that second one of my short-term contracts, I got put onto the permanent staff. In the early days of my work at the RSPB, there weren't many conservation scientists, and a lot of the methods we were using were being used sometimes for the first time in the UK, sometimes for the first time ever, because we were inventing some new methods ourselves, and we were doing, we thought, exciting new things. It seemed that way at the time. I've been fortunate enough to be involved in several research projects that have led to conservation programs that have been successful, and that's been very rewarding for me as a scientist, because when the science actually helps the conservation practice to work better, well, that's great, because that's what it's supposed to be for. It was very exciting for me in the early 2000s, having worked mostly on UK bird conservation problems on a relatively limited scale, to get to work on a really big conservation problem, which was the decline of the formerly tens of millions of vultures that were scavenging on dead cattle and carrion in the Indian subcontinent. This was a large-scale problem in geography, a huge area, vast population initially of birds, and a spectacular high rate of decline, with great urgency to try and find out what the problem was and do something about it. My career in conservation science has had some ups and some downs, but on balance I'm still here, and that's because it's been really enjoyable and challenging and engaging. You not only get to say, here's a problem and here's what you ought to do about it, you get to join in fixing the problem and working out whether you've got it right or not. Writing a lot of papers in learned journals and finding out whether other scientists approve of them or not, well, it's nice if they do, but it's better if you can test whether you were right or not in the real world, and have the real world tell you whether you were right or not. That's kind of frightening but fun.